started there?
Okay, when I first came down here, I thought the growth rate would be a lot faster, an influx of young people and that sort of thing into the area. That petered out to me 3 or 4 years ago. You get some coming in, but you just don't have near the amount. Now, the growth figures for around Shannon County, the West Plains area and stuff, are extremely high, and in fact, probably all around it, but for some reason, Shannon County just isn't growing. A lot of it is, you said a third to a half. Now, the government, between the state and the federal government, owns 70%, 67% of the land here. Automatically, you have a very low tax base. You're just not going to have, you don't have the land available for the people. And until you have industry, you're not going to pull people in because they can't support themselves. They're talking about the lead mines, but from experience, lead mines of any of the jobs that they bring in outside people for the jobs that are setting up or anything. They don't use that many inside people because it's a skilled labor for the setting up. Now they do use them for, as workers and stuff, and that would bring a certain influx into the community, but not much. And so many of these lead mines up here and these iron mines, you look at the other communities, they're gone. They come in, they basically take the land and they leave. And I think people are going to be surprised at what little will actually be brought in and how much will be taken out. There'll be a certain influx. As far as tourism, I just haven't seen it. Since they put this park in, I've had nothing but complaints from people who used to come here because it was a state park. It was nice. The government screwed it up. They just haven't oriented it toward people. They're just as happy if nobody comes here. Their job's a little less. They can keep it just nice and neat and things. They have put no push or no kind of advertising in to bring it in, and that's all you have here. You take the Branson area where they have entertainment for kids. Now, people don't bring their families here. They do, and they want a canoe. There's not a motel to stay in to speak of. So many of them go to Salem, stay overnight there, eat there, come down here for one day, and leave. After they go in, if they camp, where do they put their kids in the evening? And so many would come into the restaurant and say, "What can we do?" And there was nothing that we could tell them to do. There is nothing. Once you've seen the river, that's it. It looks like an ideal setup for a tourist area, but it's not, because people want more than nature on a vacation. They want to be kept busy, especially city folk. They don't want to come down and look at the trees. They want somebody to make their entertainment for them and tell them what to do and what to look at. And I think tourism is going to be very slow. There's just no push. The townspeople, Chamber of Commerce, just isn't worried about it. They don't. They have no desire to really grow with it, whether that's good or bad. There's two sides. Those that have stores and stuff say, yeah, let's grow. The others that don't say, hell, we don't want the tourists in here. And all in all, I think it's going to be a very slow growth rate. There's just not that much to attract people to the area.
One thing that is growing, though, is the school population for some reason. The average classroom has more like about 35 in a classroom, and if it continues the way it is, we really need to split 2 first grades, but there's not the money to do it. We have the people coming in, but there's not the money to do it. And if we did get the lead mines, that is one thing that would help, because the money from the lead mines would help the school. The school systems around here that have lead mines in them, the schools, not that the teaching is better, but the facilities are better. They're carpeted, possibly air conditioned or whatever. Especially the way the weather's going and stuff, we're spending less time in the winter and more time in the hotter weather going to school because of it. So if the lead mines did come in, it would help us with the school situation and stuff. But I don't know about as far as people and jobs go. It would be nice if we could get more industry in the area of some sort, because there's plenty of people who could use jobs.
What about I go back to that earlier question about when you first came here and entertainment, banjo and fiddle and all that.
Just 1 second. Let me
Okay.
every time I find it.
We'll cut a second.
Okay, no, I'm fine. I'm back in business.
Let's cut a minute. I want to get it.
Run the whole thing again? Okay. Let me see if I can do this. Okay, the situation was that, when I was younger, we lived in southern Illinois and moved up to Chicago. distinctly remember being told to carry a gun or watch out for mobsters, and having the feeling that it was totally unsafe to even walk the streets and stuff when you get up north. And then when I moved down here at age 23 or something, or whatever it was, I get the same situation of going from north to south, of carrying a gun and everything, and just the contrast of the lack of understanding between the two areas was, the interesting part of it, because even down here we're not that far south, and yet we're considered south by the northerners and vice versa to go up there. There's a definite mistrust. Well, we went down, just got back from Charleston, getting way down south, and I could understand a lot more of the southern feelings down there. You look at the plantations that were destroyed and the ways of life that were knocked out in the Civil War, and these things have come down to people, whatever. It's still two countries in a lot of extent, as far as the way people feel about each other, up north or down south.
What about the tolerance in the people in this area? Have you found to be
a lot more tolerant than we came across up north, as far as acceptance of people and stuff. And tolerance has to do with being threatened, I think. Feeling their lifestyle threatened, their beliefs threatened by somebody who does differently. If you don't accept and do what they do, you're in effect saying that you don't like what they're doing. Down here, there wasn't that situation. Well, by coming down here, in one sense, you're doing what the people are doing down here, and they accept that. But the different lifestyles, they accept it without any trouble. I think down here, there's less of the playing around of who's doing what or doing this. You're all in it trying to make it together as far as making a living and things. And that might have something to do with it, but it definitely is a more tolerant area as far as, putting up with people's different habits and stuff. And yet they are talked about a lot more. It's an interesting conversation, but nobody really comes down on you for it.
I think it's talked out in the open, and everybody hears about it, so it's okay. You can talk about it, and then it's not really threatening, and they don't hassle you about it.
But you're living in a rumor mill too, which is, it gets real upsetting, because, the time it goes through three people, you have such a completely different story than ever started with. And so many people put weight on the stories that they hear, and they should but know by now, living down here, this sort of thing just isn't true. By the time it gets through people, they just, loses so much of the truth or what had happened and stuff. And that goes back to what we said previously, being judged on what they hear instead of, meeting you and judging you as you are as a person.
It also depends who they hear it from, too. If it's a kin, if somebody they're kin to, then, that's what it is. And, it might very well not be. We've gotten into some misunderstandings from people because they've gotten the information third hand, and that's not what we intended at all. And then it's kind of like, oh, how do we get into this?
We've seen a lot of acceptance of pretty eccentric behavior. Luther Rowlett, for instance, and people like that. I mean, they're just part of the landscape.
Yeah, I guess this country, I don't know, fewer people actually eccentricity gives people something to talk about and something to do. It's an entertainment down here as much as anything else, and it doesn't threaten them because there's not a heck of a lot to threaten as far as lifestyles or anything. Luther's a rather interesting guy.
What about, let's go like for the last question, the thing about the coming in here and the banjos and the fiddle and what you tried to do and entertain yourselves. And
what about it specifically?
Well, cut just a second. Okay. Do you think you do have any sense of what it was like to be a pioneer here?
Oh, definitely, because being a pioneer, and actually the pioneers had it much, I won't say easier, but they had much more to work with as far as physical things. I talked to the old timers, and they talked about coming in and being able to go in the woods and see a quarter mile without any trouble. And there was big timber, there wasn't the undergrowth to clear a field. They just cut down a big tree here and there and left the stumps and planted the field. And you just can't do that now. It's all scrub growth. And of course, living without electricity and living without refrigeration, everything else. You learn to live exactly how they live, actually. In the beginning, I did a lot of gardening. We had a lot of animals. I'd go out and hunt and stuff. And to be self-sufficient wouldn't be that hard once you know, as long as there are 200,000 people trying to do the same thing with you. The resources have to be there to do it. But
Well, and the other thing is, as long as you have your household and everything set up to be simple. If you have your household set up to be modern, and all of a sudden all that was taken away from you, you'd have trouble because things would get broken, you couldn't fix it, and you weren't ready, you know. But we feel like if the house was set up and everything right, that we could do it. It's a good feeling, you know, to know that you could.
Being self-sufficient and doing without that, you know, when the people came down, they didn't have electricity and there wasn't anything else to have, you accept that, and that doesn't bother you in the least. And that's the way it is. Going back to that sort of situation, using a tool, doing something by hand when you know you can take the chainsaw and zap through it and stuff, that's hard to do, at least for me personally, because the tool is there and it makes it easier and stuff. When you have the contrast like that, it's hard to live a self-sufficient life. You know, the reinforcement they had back then there, they didn't know any other way. There wasn't any other way. And so, actually, it makes it easier to live that kind of life.
You see there's something kind of phony in someone who likes to try to do it with, you know, hew their house out of a broad axe with a broad axe instead. I mean, when they can do it the other way.
No, it's not phony at all. It's me personally. Now, I have a lot of admiration for people who take a piece of furniture and build it by hand and not use a hand tool and peg the whole thing. You know, that's an art and that's a patience. Personally, I've never been able to do it. If there's something to make the job easier for me, I like to use it.